Good morning, Hallowed family. This is After Dawn, the show where we sit down to have a cup of coffee with the cast, crew, and creators behind the Hallowed Studios productions. I'm Sol, and I'm joined by my co-host, Grizz.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Grizz, and today we've got a special episode. Instead of our usual sit-down, we're going to be talking about Hallowed Haven's upcoming flagship show, Apotheosis. It's Season 2, a continuation of a Scion First Edition game. And to talk about that, we are joined by BP, the storyteller for the campaign. How you doing, BP?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you guys?
Doing all right.
I'm doing just fine as well. So let's start off with a easier question. Could you give us a brief synopsis of what Apotheosis is for those who might not have seen the first season?
Okay. Apotheosis is a Scion game, and Scion, the only way or the best way that I can describe it is it's modern mythology. It's like if you took Neil Gaiman's American Gods and Percy Jackson and you slam them together. Same basic principle. It's a modern day world. There's a little bit of a masquerade a la Vampire the Masquerade going on. And the players play the children of gods from various pantheons. Scion itself is kind of an adventure story where adventure and lore heavy story where the characters get to in season 1 got introduced to the concept of being a Scion, being born with divine ichor. By being hunted and nearly eaten by giant wolves from Norse mythology that were after their hearts. They kind of went on to they fought the wolves a little bit. They met an oracle, they met some dwarves, and they ultimately made the questionable decision to, instead of kill the big bad, to try to redeem him. And that's how we ended the first season, was with basically like a court trial that the Scions asked for.
Caught you off guard?
It caught me off guard when the player who instigated that entire thing came to me between sessions and was just like, "Hey, I know we've only got 3 episodes left, but have you considered we don't kill the big bad?" And I went, I considered him winning.
I did, in fact, not consider his continued existence with yours.
Right. I didn't consider you trying to save him.
I can fix him.
He's so damaged, I must fix him.
I must fix him.
And so she mapped out what she wanted to have happen, and we had a discussion about it, and I made it very clear that I was not going to guarantee any level of success. I said it is entirely on you. You could try, and this could still fail. It's not going to be easy, and in the end, they barely eked out a win. They won by a single vote, and that vote was a toss of the coin.
Ooh.
From Ganesha, if I remember right.
Yes. She leaned hard into his position as god of luck, and I said, well, if she's going to do this, then I'm going to flip a coin. So I did.
So that's how it's going to be. All right, then.
I warned them it wasn't going to be easy, and there were some good moves on their part, and there was 1 or 2 slight missteps. And in the end, every other god, it was they were 1 for 1 on each side of the argument. So,
well, given all of that, all right. So we know that Hallowed Haven has a tradition of placing all their flagships in a same kind of similar universe, the Hallowed Haven cinematic universe. That's, I guess, we're just going to call it now. Is this campaign going to be the same universe as any of the other flagship shows, or adjacent to them?
Yes and no, because our shows can and sometimes do, but don't always, interconnect. All of our World of Darkness stuff, for the most part, takes place in the same world. Maybe not at the same time. We've had some shows that were back in the 90s. We've had some shows that are modern. And I made the decision during, season 1 of our Hunter game, Wayfair, which was my first flagship show that I ran for us, I think. I made the decision that one of the big bads in one of the players' stories was going to be Loki of the Norse Pantheon. Knowing that if I ever ran a Scion game, I was going to have Loki missing from that world. And so when I finally decided to break out the bottle of champagne and crack it over the hull of the ship and run something in Scion, that was the first thing I decided. That was the first thing I set in stone, was that Loki had been missing for 30 years, and nobody knew why or where he'd gone. And as it turns out, it was because he hopped through a portal and was in the World of Darkness and had gotten stuck there and was going to need help getting back. Which just got resolved in season 2 of Wayfair a few months ago.
Oh boy! So now Loki's back with the cigarettes and milk that he went out for 30 years ago.
Yeah. I don't know how big of a role he's going to play in this season. We'll have to see how the story goes. The players are going to be quite busy with the consequences of their actions from the end of season 1. And how much involvement Loki wants to have in all of that is kind of up in the air right now.
Understandably so. So, for those who haven't actually seen the system at play, but might have seen some Storyteller systems, can you tell us a little bit about how Scion actually works? Like, how is it different from the usual vampire, hunter, werewolf, any of those D10 storytelling systems?
So the reality is that it's also a D10 storytelling system. So there are actually there's more similarities than dissimilarities. Scion has purviews and epic attributes, which are like the big thing that separate this system from other old White Wolf, now World of Darkness, or Onyx Path systems. In World of Darkness and White Wolf games, especially like Vampire and whatever, you have disciplines, and that's effectively what purviews are. They're kind of like disciplines, except that purviews are grouped together by theme, like earth and water and death and darkness and sun, things like that. And then you've got epic attributes, which are basically, they take your core stats and they make them like properly epic. They're like, if you have dots in this epic attribute, you get things called knacks. Knacks are basically additional powers. Some of them are considered always on, like they always just work the way that they do. Some of them you have to like spend legend, which is a little bit like spending like a blood point if you're a vampire, in order to activate them, and they let you do things like leap incredible heights or charm an entire room of people with a smile, that sort of thing. So the biggest difference, I guess, is mostly the epic attributes and the knacks, because they put the myth in the idea that this is a game about urban mythology. They make the characters larger than life, I guess, is the best way to describe it. It's until you've seen it in action, it's a little hard to describe to people who are not accustomed to having like two different sets of like strength points, that sort of thing.
Makes sense.
The dice pulls in Scion also tend to get way bigger.
Yeah, I remember that from the earlier season, like 10 or 11 or 12 or more dice all at once.
Well, okay, to be fair, when we got to 10 plus, it was usually because there were multiple people contributing to the roll. It was, I'm going to do this thing to see if I can give that person more dice. which is a little bit baked into the system and a little bit homebrew on my part because I like games where I promote a lot of team play. Yes, it's cool for every player to have a moment to stand out, but I also tend to present problems that cannot be solved by one person. You've all got to work together. Um, and so that's what happened. And that's how we got moments like Sarah's baby driver episodes, where, she had everybody in the car with her, but everybody in the car was doing something different to help her be better at driving. I think it was Chris was spotting for her, and Coda and Oliver were doing things in like the back seat to help. And um, I had them roll, and then based on their rolls, I think I like cut the number in half, and I gave her that many extra dice. And it just so happens that they rolled like, well, pun intended, like gods. And bumped her from like a 3 or 4 die pool to like a 10 plus. But it was very cool.
Fair enough. Do you have any information about the cast for season 2?
I do. So coming up, so this season we have Gary and Coda are recurring PCs that are coming back. We have a new PC who is getting introduced, who's being played by Gavin Reed's Words over on TikTok. He's amazing. Go check him out. And we have a bunch of returning NPCs that are coming back. We're going to see Kareem. We're going to see Artemis. We're going to see Bastet. And we've got a bunch of new ones. Loki might show up depending on what his player decides he wants to do and how he wants to meddle. Stefan is coming back. And I've added in some other interesting people. We've got someone coming in who's going to be playing Lou. We have a special guest coming on for the first handful of episodes. Is going to be playing a fellow Scion who's going to be helping them out because Sticker, who plays Coda, can't be with us for the first handful of episodes. So we have someone coming on who's going to play a guest role in the band to help even out the numbers until Coda can join them. Played by Stabby, who was in the Bed of Roses, which was our Witcher Chronicle.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, I have to ask, and of course, this is a hype train. This is a hype episode, we're all getting excited. So, obviously, no spoilers, but what are you most excited about for this?
The consequences of their actions.
Wow, that was fast. Okay, that was slow.
Jesus.
That was aggressive.
Making them pay.
You don't understand. They completely derailed my story at the end of season 1, and I was happy for them to do it. But there are going to be consequences for what they did, and they're going to have to deal with those.
I'm sorry. We need to take the mic away from me, just a little farther away. Goodness, yeah, of course.
I'm very excited. I'm also really excited for all the new people. We've got a bunch of new NPC voices. We've got a new player voice. It's a lot. It's an even bigger juggling effort than I had to put in for season 1, but I'm really excited.
Anything other than the consequences of their actions?
Well, I mean, like I said, I'm excited for the increased cast. I'm excited for all the new people who are joining us. Bookkeeper is coming on to play Lou, and that's going to be amazing because he's just great and he knows a ton about Scion. So I'm very excited to have him in a role like that. I'm super thrilled to have somebody like Gavin come on. That voice is just magic, and I'm just very happy to listen to it. It's going to be distracting during sessions because I could just listen to him read the phone book and it would be great. But I will endeavor to carry on and not get too sidetracked.
We'll have somebody ready to snap their fingers in your face, like during session, like, no, Focus.
Focus.
Focus up. All right, yeah. No, thank you. I was just like, no, I mean, that's a lot of energy there. Good God.
I am most excited for the consequences of their actions. I can't give a lot of spoilers. There were some hints of what some of those consequences would be at the end of season 1, which was stuff like in order to avoid Stefan being killed and facing essentially the death penalty, they had to agree to some measures. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that because they didn't get as many votes. If they'd gotten an overwhelming majority or even a decent majority, it probably would not have been so hard on them. They probably would not have been so hard on them. But because it literally came down to a single vote, they were required to. Stefan was locked away in Loki's cave and is effectively being tortured in a mini version of what his father Loki went through. It's short periods of time rather than all the time, because he would just die if he was subjected to the same stuff that Loki was for as long. And in order to have a chance of him ever really getting out, the agreement was that they had to perform labors for each of the pantheons except the Norse, who don't get a labor of their own because they get to keep him captive. They get to be his jailers. So over the course of the next season or two, they get to go around and figure out what the labors are and then perform them. And when they're over, Stefan at least has a chance of getting out again, assuming that he's been on good behavior and they've done everything else that they're supposed to do. There were some other things that came up, some other agreements that single members of the band made with certain gods that they will inevitably be forced to reckon with. And all of that is layered on top of the fact that they never really resolved the wolf thing in season 1. Saving Stefan is all well and good, except that now Stefan's lieutenant Gwen is in charge, because she didn't die either, and she's a significantly less stable force than Stefan was. Gwen is very angry and feeling incredibly betrayed, and is going to hold back a lot less than Stefan did when he was running things. So that's always going to kind of be like an ever-present threat in the background that they're going to probably have to contend with now and then, even if it's not their primary focus anymore.
Well, damn.
It's gonna be rough for them then. Damn.
It's gonna be a rough time. They've got a lot to deal with, and I'm excited to force them to face the consequences of their actions. Teach them why they should hesitate before making deals with gods, or agreeing to things without getting second opinions. Cough, coda, cough.
Nah, that's not right. That doesn't sound.
It doesn't track for her at all, does it?
Oh.
So that's what I'm most excited for. Sorry. Go ahead.
It's all good. So when should we start expecting to be able to watch this campaign?
Our premiere is October 6th at 8 p.m. And just like every other show that I do, it's every Friday from 8 to midnight. We may be off the Friday immediately after Thanksgiving. A lot of that's going to depend on availability of players and SPCs. But I'm hoping we'll get to play that night. So we will have to see. And we run through until the studio goes on break, which is the second week of December, I believe.
All right. Well, in the meantime, do you have any tips for people in the chat to get involved? Anything you want to see from the viewers?
If you want to get involved, one of the best ways to do it, honest to goodness, is to join our Patreon. You can listen to our behind the scenes stuff. You can, if you are at a high enough tier, you can vote on in-game events. You get to have priority when submitting questions for After Dawn. So if there's anything that you want to know from me or the cast and you are a patron, your questions kind of get bumped to the top of the list and they're less likely to get dropped off of the list when the list gets compiled. Other than that, pop in on the Discord. Make sure that you're there for the streams. We don't necessarily react verbally during the story because we don't want to lose the pace, but we tend to chat back and forth with people who are listening in a lot. And people talked about season 1 a ton on our Discord, so I have no doubt that there will be a lot of that with season 2 as well.
Looking forward to seeing it. Well, I think that this is enough to hype up this campaign, and I know I'm very excited to witness what's going to be happening. So we hope you all are as excited to watch the show as we are. Thank you for watching, and as usual, you can join us as we have a cup of coffee with the cast, crew, and creators of Hallowed Studios each week. These episodes are dropped Thursdays at noon for the $5 plus tier on our Patreon, but they're released to the public a month later. So if you want to stay up to date, you have to be subscribed. I'm Solomon. Thank you for listening.
Bye.